Well, a very good evening and thank you for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Government pushes back against capping of airfares even as prices surge in the wake of Go First being grounded. Civil Aviation Ministry officials are learned to have told a parliamentary committee that caps at this time would hurt a sector already struggling with losses and high ATF prices. Go First troubles mount as aviation regulator gets requests to deregister 9 more aircraft, taking total deregistration requests to 45 aircraft. There's fresh trouble for SpiceJet as well. Lessors seek to deregister 3 aircraft, but the airline says all 3 planes belong to one lessor and this does not affect operations. Air India gives its pilots 1 more week to accept revised employment contracts. The additional window comes even as the airline conducts a recruitment drive. Sources say several Go First pilots have applied for jobs. US President Joe Biden to meet top Republican leaders, including House Speaker McCarthy, as the debt ceiling deadline looms. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warns of an economic catastrophe if the debt ceiling is not raised before the month end. Mankind Pharma makes a stellar debut on the Dalal Street, lists at a much higher than expected premium of 20% over its issue price. The stock ends its first day of trading 32% higher. Fitch reaffirms India's sovereign rating at BBB- with a stable outlook, says the rating reflects a robust growth outlook and resilient external finances, but warns of weak public finances. Fitch has not changed its rating on India since 2006. Election Commission says it has seized over 375 crore rupees worth of cash, alcohol, gold and other items meant to induce voters. In Karnataka, that's nearly 5 times higher than the 84 crore rupees worth of seizures made in the last assembly elections. A tense calm prevails on the streets of Manipur, where ethnic violence has left more than 60 persons dead and 35,000 people displaced. The state government says about 1,700 houses have been burnt since the violence began on the 3rd of May. Supreme Court resumes hearing petitions on legalizing same-sex marriage, says it has the power to issue a declaration recognizing such rights while leaving the execution to the government. Chief Justice Chandrachud observes it is far-fetched to say that the right to marry is not a constitutional right. Pakistan's anti-corruption body sends in a unit of Pakistan Rangers to arrest former Prime Minister Imran Khan outside Islamabad High Court. Police say the arrest is in connection with the Al-Qadir Trust case. Khan's party calls it an abduction. Russia fires a barrage of missiles into Ukraine as it marks the 78th anniversary of Soviet victory in the Second World War. Russia's President Putin attends a military parade, tells soldiers that civilization is at a turning point and that the entire country stands with the troops. Well, straight to action now coming in from the Dalal Street. A last-hour fall saw the Nifty and Sensex end flat. The Nifty ended the day below the 18,300 mark. The Nifty Bank, meanwhile, underperformed, and the blue chips to end 0.25% lower. ITC, SBI and ICICI Bank were the biggest laggards. Well, Fitch has affirmed its lowest investment-grade sovereign rating for India at BBB- with a stable outlook. The ratings agency cited India's robust growth outlook and resilient external finances as key supporting factors for the rating. However, the agency has warned of weak public finances and lagging structural indicators. Fitch said that they forecast India to be one of the fastest-growing rated sovereigns globally at 6% in the fiscal year ending March 2024. Meanwhile, the government has pushed back against capping of airfares even as prices surge in the wake of Go First being grounded. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that Civil Aviation Ministry officials have told Parliamentary Committee that the caps at this point would hurt a sector already struggling with losses and high ATF prices. Parikshit Luthra is standing by with more details. Parikshit, tell us, what is the MOCA, the Ministry of Civil Aviation, telling the Parliamentary Committee?
Well, this was a meeting held yesterday. This is a panel that is headed by YSR Congress MP Vijay Sai Reddy. And there were strong questions asked of all the aviation ministry officials who were there as to why the government can't step in and control the prices. Why can't a fare cap be imposed, a maximum limit be imposed by the government? To which the Secretary Civil Aviation and top DGC officials said that all airlines are suffering losses, ATF prices are high, and ATF constitutes a big part of an airline's operational cost, and therefore it's unviable. It's very difficult at this juncture to go ahead and introduce any sort of fare cap, and the government is not considering one at this stage. We also asked sources in the government if any kind of fare cap is being considered, and they said definitely not one at this stage. But let's see what happens. The Parliamentary Committee has had also asked them why a price cap cannot be done. So the government said that financials of airlines are very clear. They are all in losses, to which the committee said that please tell us about the financials of all these airlines in the next meeting. Also tell us the rules and regulations around the price cap at the next meeting. We also believe that MPs will ask questions on the impact of Gophers grounding on airfare prices. So this is an issue that could be discussed in the next meeting as well. But for the moment, the government not looking at capping fares at this stage.
Right, Parikshit, thanks a lot for those details. Now, staying with the aviation sector, the Company Law Tribunal will pronounce its order on Go First's plea seeking protection under the bankruptcy law. Now, the order will come 6 days after the NCLT reserved its order on May 4th. The airline is pressing for an order of moratorium to restrain the lessors from taking back the aircraft. The DGCA has received more requests from lessors seeking deregistration of 9 more aircraft operated by the airline. Overall, deregistration requests have been received for 45 aircraft. Well, not just Go First, there is fresh trouble for SpiceJet as well. The DGCA has received requests from lessors seeking deregistration of 3 aircraft on the back of unpaid dues. SpiceJet spokesperson said that all 3 planes belong to single lessor, and that it said that 2 of the 3 planes have been grounded for long periods now, and that hence this development does not affect its operations. Well, Go First collapse may not augur too well for Air India pilots who had been refusing to sign the new employment terms. Air India has now given another week for pilots to reconsider their decision and accept the new contract. And this extension comes at a time when Air India is conducting a recruitment drive to onboard new pilots. Madhya Mujawar joins us with the latest. Madhya, the pilots who hadn't signed on will now accept these terms. I mean, that's the big question being asked. What are you picking up?
Well, Ashmit, the 2 pilot unions called a virtual meeting today with their members to decide the next plan of action. We're still waiting to hear from them on what was discussed in these meetings. But in a related development, as you mentioned, what we know so far is that the airline has reopened the window for those pilots who have not signed the new terms before 30th of April, which was the earlier deadline. Sources from Air India tell me that more than 50% of pilots have already accepted the new employment contract. The airline apparently was receiving requests from other pilots who hadn't previously signed the terms to reopen the window. So now those wanting to sign have been given time till the end of this week to reconsider, rethink and accept the new terms. And this additional window comes at a time when Air India is conducting recruitment drives across Mumbai, Bengaluru and Gurugram to hire pilots. And we learn that several Go First pilots who fear they will lose their jobs and want to secure their future have attended these interviews by Air India. It's obvious that shutting down of an airline will certainly lead to an influx of job-seeking pilots and other airline staff. And remember, Air India pilots unions had called the new employment terms that was rolled out last month as unfair and anti-labor. And now whether the recruitment drive will force them to fall in line or put them under pressure is something we will get to know in a while.
Right, Madhya, thanks a lot for that update. We'll keep coming back to you for more. Now, here's a money control exclusive. The share of proprietary trades in national stock exchanges, futures and options turnover has increased over the last couple of years. Now, remember, proprietary trades are done trades by the broking firm on its books and not on behalf of its clients. Now, market participants anticipate this trend to continue since some brokers are exploiting a loophole in the existing regulations and are actually funding their clients. Santosh Nair joins us with more details.
some brokers have managed to find an interesting loophole. So what they are doing here is actually indirectly they are funding their clients. So they are passing off those trades as proprietary trades, which on paper it may look as if the broker themselves are doing it, but they have entered into arrangement with clients. So they are offering leverage to client. For all practical purpose, it's the broker who's putting in the trade. But what the broker is doing here is that he has already collected a certain margin amount from the client. And then on top of that, the broker will give about 5 to 10 times leverage based on how comfortable he is with the client. So the broker is making a very good return here. He's anyway earning money on those funds from his bank. In addition to that, he charges the client for funding and also charges a hefty brokerage. So in all, he makes anywhere between 16 to 25%. 16% is the minimum. This is what traders in the market are telling me. It can go as high as 25% if they are entering into a profit sharing arrangement with the client. So what they're doing here is that they're basically offering their API feed to these clients, these high volume algo traders. The algo traders then put their trades through the broker's platform. So this kind of a profitable arrangement for both the broker as well as the client. That's because the client won't get this kind of leverage from other brokers who are let's say who don't want to take this kind of risk. Remember, SEBI doesn't allow brokers to fund clients' position, and what these brokers, by using the proprietary channel, are doing is exactly that. They are actually funding their clients' positions.
Right, Santosh, thanks so much for that. Now, it was a strong Wall Street debut for Mankind Pharma. The company's shares listed at a 20% premium to the issue price. The company's 4,326 crore rupee IPO is the biggest issue in a year and the largest by a pharma company after Gland Pharma's 2020 IPO. Ekta Batra now joins us with more. Ekta, a good listing after a long IPO winter.
Well, yes, it's a strong debut coming in for Mankind Pharma, which in fact is the largest pharma IPO after Gland, which debuted in 2020. It has listed at the higher end of the price band at around 1,080 and raised around 1,297 odd crores from 77 anchor investors. It was subscribed around 15.32 times with QIB at around 49 times. So it has seen a lot of institutional interest, though in terms of retail subscription, it was still sub 1 times. Now, in terms of a couple of key points about the business, it gets around 98% of its sales from India. Pharmaceuticals is 90% of its business, but the consumer healthcare, which is around 9 to 10% of sales, has a strong amount of brands in it, such as the likes of Manforce, Unwanted 72 and Prega News. Its key USP is affordability, accessibility, with pricing at around 15 to 20% cheaper than what is available in the market. Now, in terms of a couple of key points on growth, the company is working towards the launch of new products to ensure growth going forward. The EBITDA margin is likely to be in the range of around 25 to 27%, so an improvement from the 9-month margins. They don't see anything wrong with the family being involved. They are looking to professionalize gradually, and they are not perturbed by competition in Tier 1 cities. In terms of a valuation on a 1 year forward, it's at around 30 to 31 times now, which is less expensive than a couple of the pharma MNCs, but nonetheless, it is a little more expensive at this point in time when compared to the likes of Suns and Ciplas as well as the Alchems of the world. Macquarie has written on it. They've initiated with an outperformed target price of 1,400 rupees. According to them, the company appears to be well positioned to double its profitability by FY26.
We are in a transition mode. Everything happens at its own pace. And if you ask me what basically is a thought process in Mankind, we want to be the most admired company. We want to institutionalize Mankind Pharma. Every department is being controlled by the right professional. We are hand holding. And what's wrong in if some kind of involvement of a family is there, because whenever any kind of hurdles are there, we're always there to hand hold them, clear the roadblocks. When family is involved a bit, I mean, that really shows how passionately they are involved. But there's no doubt that we are on the path of professionalizing it.
Meanwhile, world's largest oil exporter, Saudi Aramco, reported a 19% drop in profits in the March quarter. The drop in profit was on expected lines as rising interest rates and inflation have been impacting global demand, leading to a fall in oil prices. The company posted net income of around $32 billion, which beat Street's expectations. 3 Adani Group companies have lost their endorsement from a UN-backed group that helps companies establish plans to reduce emissions consistently. Adani Green, Adani Ports and Adani Transmission were removed from a list of published by Science Based Target Initiative for not complying with its policy. Adani Group has asked the group to justify the exclusion and has sought a review of this decision. Well, the Delhi High Court dismisses government's plea challenging the arbitral award in favour of Reliance Industries in a dispute in the KGD6 block. In 2018, an arbitral tribunal in 2-1 majority held that Reliance is entitled to produce all hydrocarbons resulting from petroleum operations conducted on a contract area, which may also include hydrocarbons migrating from an adjacent block. And well, there you have a standard disclaimer on your screen. Network 18 and TV18, the companies that operate CNBC-TV18, are controlled by an independent media trust, of which Reliance Industries is the sole beneficiary. Well, food delivery apps Zomato and Swiggy have cause for concern after enjoying years of a duopoly in this sector. A new player, the government-backed Open Network for Digital Commerce, or ONDC, has emerged on the horizon and has the potential to disrupt the food delivery ecosystem. Shilpa Rani Betta finds out more on the ONDC opportunity.
In the past few days, many users have started using ONDC for food delivery, with the orders in fact doubling to about 20,000 in just the past couple of days. Now, these users have been pointing out how significantly cheaper it is to order food on ONDC, though some have complained that delivery is taking much longer. But the larger discourse is that ONDC could potentially be the next big thing for food delivery. But is it really? Let me explain. Now, unlike Swiggy or Zomato, which are integrated platforms that control the end-to-end food ordering experience, ONDC is an open network where the restaurant can list itself. Then you log on to a seller platform like Paytm, you order from there, and then the restaurant fulfills the order either directly or with the help of a logistics partner. Now, what is making ONDC so much cheaper, rather ordering on ONDC so much cheaper, is that while Swiggy and Zomato charge restaurants a commission of 18 to 25%, it's just about 2 to 6% now on ONDC, and not to forget the massive discounts that are being offered by the restaurants, by platforms and by ONDC itself. But does this mean that ONDC will disrupt Swiggy and Zomato? Well, one thing is there, ONDC does take away the single platform control for restaurants and gives them better visibility. And I spoke to a few experts who say that the unit economics are definitely better for restaurants on ONDC, while they currently don't make money on Swiggy or Zomato. And the low prices are obviously more attractive to the consumers. So ONDC is likely to emerge as a third alternative for restaurants and consumers, and could maybe take away about 10 to 15% of the orders from Swiggy and Zomato. And this could potentially even force both these platforms to relook at their high commission and other charges. But what is more important to note is that the current discounts, experts say, on ONDC are not sustainable in the long term. Food delivery also has several factors at play that make it a seamless experience. Things like speed of delivery, being able to handle high volumes, especially at peak hours, having a superior tech, making it seamless, and also capturing data. And more importantly, customer trust that the food will be delivered as promised, and if issues arise, what part of the ONDC network will be able to resolve that dispute seamlessly. These will be key for ONDC to succeed going forward.
Well, with that, it's time now to slip into a very short break. But coming up on the other side, U.S. President Joe Biden to meet top Republican leaders, including House Speaker McCarthy, as the debt ceiling deadline looms. Details when we come back. Welcome back. A quick check on the other stories that we're tracking. It's the eve of the voting day in Karnataka. Election Commission has announced a near five-fold increase in seizures of items meant to induce voters. Election Commission says that cash, alcohol, drugs and precious metals and other items worth more than 375 crore rupees have been seized since the Model Code of Conduct came into effect. This is nearly 5 times higher than the seizures made during the last assembly elections, that was back in 2018, worth 84 crore rupees. Now, cash seizures accounted for nearly 150 crore rupees. Precious metals like gold and silver worth nearly 97 crores were seized, along with alcohol worth 84 crore rupees and drugs worth nearly 24 crores. Karnataka votes tomorrow and the counting will take place on Saturday. A tense calm prevailed in the streets of Manipur, where ethnic violence has left more than 60 persons dead and 35,000 people displaced. State government has said that about 1,700 houses have been burnt in what was the first official account of the scale of destruction since the violence began on the 3rd of May. Over 20 people are dead and 31 more injured after a passenger bus fell off a bridge in Khargaon district of Madhya Pradesh. The bus driver is yet to be traced. According to preliminary reports, he fell asleep at the wheel and lost control of the bus. MP CM Shivraj Singh Chauhan took to Twitter to express grief over the lives lost. Officials of Pakistan's anti-corruption body arrested former Prime Minister Imran Khan in Islamabad during a court appearance. Islamabad police says that the arrest is in connection with the Al-Qadir Trust case. Khan's party calls the arrest an abduction. The Pakistan government denied allegations that Imran Khan was tortured. Inactive profiles on Twitter may soon be purged, according to Elon Musk. Musk warned that the accounts that have not been active for several years will be removed. He also said that the users may also witness a drop in their follow account. According to the company's policy, Twitter users must sign into their Twitter accounts at least once in 30 days to retain them. Tesla officially broke ground at its new lithium refinery in Texas. The automaker plans to produce enough battery-grade lithium at the new factory to support the production of 1 million electric cars annually. The goal of the new plant is to produce lithium hydroxide to support its own battery cell production at Gigafactory, Texas. At least 9 civilians were killed after Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip targeting the militant group Palestinian Islamic Jihad. 3 operatives of the militant group were killed, as well as several others have been injured. Russia fired a barrage of missiles into Ukraine as it marks the 78th anniversary of Soviet victory in the Second World War. Russia's President Putin attended a military parade. He told the soldiers that civilization is at a turning point and that the entire country stands with the troop. U.S. President Joe Biden is scheduled to meet top Republican leaders, including House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, to break the deadlock on the issue of the debt ceiling. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has warned of an economic catastrophe if the debt ceiling is not raised before the end of this month. Here's that story.
Top leaders from both parties head to the White House today with a crisis over the debt ceiling causing fears of an economic catastrophe. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warns that as soon as June 1st, the government could run out of money to pay federal workers, fund the military, and pay for key programs like Medicaid and Medicare.
If Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling, the president will have to make some decisions about what to do with the resources that we do have. And there are a variety of different options, but there are no good options. Every option is a bad option.
Right now, Congress is locked in a stalemate over the issue. Republicans in the House passed a plan that would lift the debt ceiling, but only in exchange for steep spending cuts. Over the weekend, 43 Republican senators signed on an open letter saying they too will not vote to raise the government's borrowing limit without cuts.
We're trying to hold the debt hostage to us to agree to some draconian cuts, magnificently difficult and damaging cuts.
The president and congressional Democrats insist Republicans pay the government's bills now and negotiate spending during budget talks later.
Democrats are putting the country in jeopardy. The president, by ignoring to even negotiate, the majority of Americans overwhelmingly want us to sit down and negotiate.
As the leaders head to the White House, experts say the economy is on shaky grounds. A possible default on the debt, along with rising interest rates and ongoing turmoil among banks, are fueling fears of a recession.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates continue right here on CNBC TV 18.